Hello and welcome to Leadership Reality Check. I am your host, Frenetta Tate. This is the series where we confront leadership habits, assumptions, and blind spots that quietly undermine performance. Real leadership requires honest conversations, courageous decisions, and a willingness to face what others avoid because you can't transform what you're unwilling to acknowledge. So let's begin today's reality check. Awareness without action is just expensive noise. I want you to hold that thought because what I am about to share from the 2026 SHRM State of the Workplace report is going to require you to sit with some discomfort. According to SHRM, 46% of CHROs say leadership and management development is their top priority for 2026. That is the second consecutive year it has held that ranking. Second consecutive year. And in that same period, manager engagement dropped, burnout increased, leaders are reporting more stress than ever before, and younger managers and women managers are disengaging at rates that should concern every organization paying attention. So here's the reality check. If leaders if leadership development has been the top priority for 2 years running, why are leaders getting worse and not better? Let me put some numbers on the table here. So, according to the 2026 SHRM State of the Workplace report, 46% of CHROs listed leadership and manager development as their top priority. That outpaced every other organizational concern, including employee experience, talent management, and change management. At the same time, Gallup data shows manager engagement dropped from 30 to 27%. And among younger managers under 35, it dropped 5 percentage points. Female managers dropped 7 percentage points. And then separately, DDI's global leadership forecast shows 71% of leaders are reporting increased stress from their roles. I want to be clear about what these numbers are telling us together. Organizations are saying leadership development matters most, while the people they are supposed to be developing are burning out, disengaging, and leaving. That is not a gap in intention, that is a gap in execution. And those are two very different problems. Here is what I see when I look at this data through a practitioner lens. Most organizations are confusing programming with development. They are scheduling training events and calling it investment. They are sending leaders to a workshop on Tuesday and piling the same unsustainable workload back on their desk by Wednesday. This is not development, this is performance. Real leadership development addresses the conditions people are leading inside, not just the skills they carry into the room. You cannot teach clarity to a leader who is drowning in ambiguity. You cannot build trust skills in someone who has no organizational support behind them. And here is the part that does not get said enough. You cannot develop leaders you are simultaneously burning out. When 71% of leaders say their role stress has increased, that is not a personal capacity problem. That is a systems problem. That is a design problem. That is an organizational leadership problem. And the solution is not another lunch and learn. Now, I want to speak directly to the leaders watching this because I know some of you are nodding right now. You have been asked to do more with less. Your team has gotten larger while your resources have stayed flat and shrunk. You are being held accountable for outcomes you do not have full authority to influence. And the leadership development your organization offered you was a two-way program that did not address a single thing on your actual plate. That is not a you problem. I need you to hear that clearly. That is not a you problem. When organizations flatten structures, increase spans of control, and reduce headcount, they transfer the burden directly onto the backs of their managers. And then they wonder why engagement is dropping. This is not about resilience, it's about design. So, what does real investment in leadership actually look like? Well, it starts with an honest organizational audit, not of the leaders, but of the conditions they are operating inside. Are priorities clear? Are roles defined? Is there a governance structure that gives leaders the authority they need to execute? Is the workload sustainable? Are the systems designed to reduce friction or create it? My burnout prevention responsibility model makes this point directly. Burnout is not a people problem, it is a systems signal. And healthy organizations design work that people can sustain. Real leadership investment means addressing those conditions first and building development programs on top of a foundation that can actually hold them. A leadership development program built on top of a broken system is not an investment, it is a distraction. Now, here is the reality check I want you to carry with you. Calling something a priority does not make it one. Investment makes it a priority. Intentional design makes it a priority. Removing the conditions that undermine the very people you say you are developing, that makes it a priority. If your organization has listed leadership development as a top priority for 2 consecutive years, and your leaders are more burned out, more disengaged, and more stressed than they were at the start, that is data. That data is telling you that the strategy exists on paper, but not in practice. And the gap between what we say and what we do, that gap has a name. It is called a clarity problem, and it starts at the top. That is my reality check for today. Now, let's take a look at the preventing burnout at work model. Burnout is often treated like an individual weakness, but that is not the full truth. Burnout is not just a people problem, it's a systems signal, as I mentioned before. When people are exhausted, disengaged, overwhelmed, or quietly shutting down, the question should not only be what is wrong with them, the better question is what conditions are they working within? The burnout prevention responsibility model makes one thing clear: preventing burnout is a shared responsibility. Leaders set the conditions people work within. That means clear priorities, realistic expectations, a sustainable pace, and transparent communication. When leadership is unclear, pressure travels downward and becomes confusion, urgency, and emotional strain. strain. Managers translate pressure into support. They are closest to the daily experience of the team. Managers should be having capacity conversations, watching workload balance, noticing early burnout signals, and advocating for their people before exhaustion becomes the norm. Work design also matters. Smart work design prevents unnecessary strain. Teams need clear priorities, realistic workloads, decision clarity, and fewer meetings that do not move the work forward. People should not have to burn energy navigating chaos that could have been designed better. And then there are organizational systems. Systems should reduce friction, not create it. Clear processes, efficient workflows, ethics and compliance channels, and accessible support resources, they all matter. When systems are confusing, outdated, or hard to access, people carry that burden. This model is not about blaming leaders, managers, employees, or even systems. It is about telling the truth. Healthy organizations do not simply ask people to be more resilient, they design work people can sustain. Let's talk about the organizational visibility gap. You see, most organizational problems do not start on a dashboard, they start in the daily experience of employees. Before turnover increases, before engagement declines, before productivity drops, employees usually feel the conditions first. They feel the unclear priorities. They notice the inconsistent decisions. They work around the broken promises. They hear the communication gaps. They carry the strain of competing expectations before leadership ever sees the outcome of a report. That is the organizational visibility gap. Employees experience the conditions, dashboards confirm the outcomes. By the time a problem becomes measurable, it has usually been forming for a while. First, conditions emerge, then employees adapt, workarounds increase, operational strain grows, trust weakens, participation declines, and eventually the outcome becomes visible in the metrics. This is why leaders cannot rely on lagging indicators. Dashboards are important, but they often tell you what happened after the damage has already started. The real leadership advantage is learning how to read workforce signals early. Pay attention to what employees are relating or repeating. Pay attention to where work is getting stuck. Pay attention to silence, avoidance, bottlenecks, and declining trust. Because the dashboard may tell you what happened, but employees often know why it happened. Organizations learn faster when they identify workforce signals before those signals become measurable performance problems. 46% of CHROs cite leadership development as a top priority. 71% of leaders report increased stress from their roles. And 27% manager engagement is down from 30% the prior year. This is 2026. Your reality check. Does your organization invest in leadership or do they just say they do? And this is your reality check. And this is my take. I want to hear yours. Drop your perspective in the comments. What are you seeing in your organization right now? And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share so you never miss a reality check.